exploring minds through insightful conversation. This is the Ian Scotto Podcast.
Big Pro, Shady Records, Iron Fist. You know what I mean? Riot. What you gonna die for, huh? You could try to kill me, but too many people feel me, the truth. Either dead or alive, I'll be a legend. If you look in my eyes, you realize I'm a blessing. You could try to kill me, but too many people feel me, the truth. Either dead or alive, I'll be a legend. If you look in my eyes, you realize I'm a
What's going on? Ian Scotto here with a second edition of the Ian Scotto Podcast. And first of all, I have to say I was overwhelmed with the response to the first one. I could genuinely say that. And I would love to say that it was based on my merits as an amazing interviewer. But I'm going to be truthful here and say that Brandon Webb putting the interview up on sofrep.com, SOFREP.com, his website, had a huge impact on the listenership. Gained over 1,000 listens in just a matter of days, which was really cool, very exciting for me. And checking out the comments, it was overwhelmingly positive. People really loved the interview with him. I mean, Brandon Webb is just such a interesting guy and has lived such a extraordinary life that who doesn't like hearing those stories about going into the SEALs and what he's up to now. So I had a great time doing the interview and had a great time reading some of the responses. I'd say the biggest critic of last week was, of course, me, because I'm my biggest critic. Whenever I do this type of stuff, I listen back a million times and think I could have done this better, I could have done that better. But at the same time, to be fair to myself, that's just the nature of starting something new, whether it's a TV show or a radio show. Like, I think back to these early episodes of The Simpsons where, remember when Homer sounded like, "Hi, Bart," and he didn't sound like the typical Homer that we know and love from The Simpsons. I'm sure Matt Groening and Sam Simon and those guys had a great vision in their mind for how the show was going to be. And even in those first few episodes, it was revolutionary, but it wasn't quite where it should be because it just takes a long time to get to that point where it's how you want it to look, how you want it to sound. Even the early episodes of South Park. And in radio, I could think of early episodes of Howard Stern where he kind of sounds like a character of himself, and early Opie and Anthony, and even who I work with, Andrew Wilkow. I've heard some of his early demos, and he'll tell you himself it's far from the broadcaster he has become today. And although I've been doing this a while, I kind of came up with this format in my own and want to stick to it. But most importantly, even sticking to a strict format of spotlighting new people every week, I want the show to stay true to myself and stay true to bringing on people that I find interesting, because I know you're going to find them interesting. One week I could have on an economist, and the next week I could have on a dude from a rap group, or, anything like that. If you look at last week having on Brandon Webb and this week having on Will Glass, a.k.a. Intrinzik, it's a very different guest, but that's what I'm going for. I don't want to go for doing the same show every week. I want to spotlight someone every week, but spotlight someone very differently. So I think you guys get the gist of how the show is going to sound. It's just going to keep getting better with time. On a side note, the weather here in New York, I don't know where you're listening because you could be listening from anywhere in the world, but the weather in New York has been incredible, and I've been loving it because you get to go outside, go for runs, which I'm very enthusiastic about, and gives me some of my ideas when I get to go on these long runs and warm weather, get to run in shorts and a tank top and all that. I love that feeling. It's very liberating, I guess you could say, just getting outdoor exercise. But the double-edged sword is kind of working in radio just about every day out of the week and being stuck inside these dark studios, and it gets very tolling, and you're like, ugh. I mean, doing radio in the winter is a breeze because you'd rather be in here than outside in the cold. But once the weather gets warm, it's just like, ugh, I want to get out of here. And I'm sure it's like that for anybody at any type of office job. It's just the nature of the beast. But yeah, loving the weather. It's only going to get nicer here. And, it's going to be a drag doing radio in here with this type of weather. But you got to do what you got to do and keep it up and not get discouraged. One other thing I wanted to mention, too, before we get over to Will, was the bassist for the Deftones, Chi Cheng. Deftones are my favorite band of all time. One of my favorite bassists, unfortunately passed over the weekend. Really devastating to hear, but not shocking, being the man who's been in a coma for God knows how long. But he was making some improvements, but this looked like it was inevitable to happen. So terrible to hear. They've been forging on as a band without him, though, so I'm sure they're going to keep doing stuff. But, condolences to anyone in his family, although they're probably not listening. But any Deftones fans are just devastated by the loss. So on here right now, we have Will Glass, a.k.a. Intrinzik. And before we even get into anything, but during the intro, I was talking about actually the unfortunate death of Chi Cheng from the Deftones, and I believe you're somewhat of a fan of the Deftones. Did you hear about that?
I didn't hear about it.
Yeah, really unfortunate. I mean, the guy's been in a coma for years now, which is why they replaced him on bass, and the family was holding on to hope that he would stay alive, and unfortunately, over the weekend, we heard that he passed away. So, really unfortunate passing of a great artist, I have to say.
That is wow. Music. I'm not following music like I used to. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, if Cliff Burton died, I knew about it, but now it's like I'm just not paying. I don't really follow the bands the way I used to, like as.
But it's also because you're doing so much music of your own, and it's probably like when you're not working on music, you kind of want to get away from that and look into other aspects of other things that you're doing in your life.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that. I was with Cut Calhoun of Strange Music like 2 weeks ago, and we were just talking, and it seems like they're in their own little bubble too, because he had no idea about the King Gordy incident, no idea that Lil Wayne was in a coma at the time. And,
I know about that, yeah.
Yeah, and so it seems like, the deeper you are into music, the more of a little
disconnect
bubble you're in, like he'll probably know anything about Strange Music, but anything outside, it's like foreign to him, because it's all he does is Strange Music all day, every day type of thing. So yeah, I mean, that is unfortunate, and Deftones are definitely, White Pony and before that, but yeah. Now I don't know. I like you said, I'm just not. If I hear music, I'm down with it, but I'm not. I used to seek out music. It used to be fun though, because you used to go to a record store and you would look at an album cover and you would like kind of take a chance on an album based on the artwork and the track listing. And now there's like any record store, like a Best Buy, it's like all music. It's like, okay, it's all top 40. You already know what it is. There's no guessing, and you probably don't want to buy it, because if you do like the song, it'll be on the radio anyway. And if you don't like the song, you don't want to. I don't know.
No, I get it, man. All that has changed, but I just wanted to make that as a quick note. I got to give the people a proper introduction to who you are. So. On with us is Will Glass, a.k.a. Intrinzik. I feel like I know your bio better than you do at this point, because I've known you for nearly 10 years, bro. Like, it doesn't feel like it, but I think it's been very close to a decade. So I know that Will started drumming in local bands. First, like, national band you were in, I believe, was Fall Guy, where you were singing / rapping in that group. I met you kind of near the tail end of the first big tour you did with them, and went on to do your own solo material as Intrinzik, which you've been doing for close to a decade now, and now you're doing all different types of stuff. But I think that kind of sums up your career, and also doing underground hustling right now, which is helping out some other artists along the way to achieve some things, and putting out these compilations that you do every month or every couple of months or so.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so you're a very busy man. So the first time I met Intrinzik was at a little get-together in New York City, like underground rap scene, and I had no idea who he was, but I did know his band Fall Guy was on tour with Twisted. So I saw him outside of a Virgin Megastore when people would still buy the new release when it was out. We started talking, and I still remember one of the first things that Will said to me was, you were like, "Are you Jewish, man?" And I was like, "What? Where did that come from?" "Yes, I am." And you were like, "Well, you kind of have the nose for it." And I was like, "What the fuck is wrong with this guy?" But you were like, "Chill, man. I am too." And we recognize each other. But it's kind of funny that, I think I typically look more like my Italian side, but I guess you were able to spot that out, and it was just very funny. That's how we first conversation we ever had.
Well, yeah, and in those kind of settings, at least I was kind of looking for someone I had something in common with, and you were at least visibly Jewish, and so that was kind of my icebreaker to you, because you know, in this scene of music, the people are it's a little different, at least for me, you know, coming from a Jewish family and whatnot. You know, the Juggalos tend to be a different vibration,
sure,
for lack of a better word, of people. And I saw you, I'm like, well, he looks like a put together kid who probably, you know, did his homework in high school and all that good stuff. So
yeah, to some extent,
I kind of gravitated towards you, and who would have known, like, your career would have went where it went, and my career would have went where it went, and 10 years later we'd be doing some podcasts, you know, at a serious studio.
Yeah, it's great, and you're doing such different stuff, which is what I want to get to. But it's like, to look back on your history, Fall Guy is a band that did all this touring, and you know, you guys toured the country with all different types of acts, from like Tech Nine to Twisted, and I really can't even name it all. What are those guys even up to? I remember you told me that Joe Dank, your guitarist, was working for Crank Amps, and that was before Crank Amps was like the name it is today. Everybody knows that name now, and this was actually before the passing of Dimebag Darrell.
Right.
I remember you told me with Joe you got to chill with Dimebag and Vinnie Paul from Pantera while they were in Damage Plan. So kind of a two-part question. What was it like hanging with those guys, and also what are the rest of the guys in Fall Guy up to?
Okay, yeah, so Joe, he started Crank.
Oh, wow. That I didn't even realize.
Yeah, so what happened was, you know, we had guitar amps, obviously, and he liked getting his modified and sounding better than, you know, it's an ego thing. My amp sounds better than yours. So him and Driver would just go to this guy. His name was Tony, and he made his own amps out of his garage, and he'd tweak their amps, and you know, one thing led to another, and Jody's like, dude, we gotta go mainstream with these amps because they sound so good. So he took out some sort of loan and just built an assembly line and got all the, you know, patents and, you know, all the technical stuff that goes into a business, and they just started cranking, you know, no pun intended, cranking Crank amps out of this little factory. So it was amazing. Like, I got to see the whole thing from, like, you know, beginning to, you know, sort of when they started becoming national.
And it's a name that everybody knows now, because I remember when you were telling me, like, this Crank Amps thing is going to be huge, which was, I think, in maybe 2004. I had never heard of the brand in my life, and now it is synonymous with metal and with Pantera, and you can't really go anywhere without seeing them.
That's crazy. That's crazy you say that, because I don't see that anymore, just because he's not in it anymore, and I'm not really in the live music, you know, of heavy metal anymore. But so I don't read guitar magazines, so I don't know that. But that's crazy you still say that. So basically, they would just go to. They would send amps to famous people like Rick Rubin, and they would set up all these meetings and drive around the country with amps and go into studios. And Rick Rubin was one of the big guys who pushed the amps. And somehow Dimebag Darrell got into the picture because Rita I don't think they were actually married, but
no, they were basically married, from what I know.
Yeah, basically married. So Rita and Joe Dank got a good relationship going, and Dimebag heard the amps and freaked out. And when he started this company, it was just so crazy because he would, we all looked up to all these people forever, and then he'd be like, dude, Kerry King called, or this. I'm like, dude, there's no way, And then he's like, Dimebag Darrell called, he's coming down, and then Dimebag just kept coming down, playing with the amps, and they became really close friends. And then we would just, go out to these strip clubs and party with them. And it was just, it's totally different when you're, I'm somewhat of a celebrity, not really, but when you go out to these strip clubs, especially with guys like like the lead guitar player of Pantera, sure, like just how the overall experience changes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it has to.
Yeah, and you just feel untouchable. You're like, dude, I'm with Dimebag. Like, come on. That doesn't get any cooler than being at a strip club with Dimebag Darrell. So, it was just, the dude's humble, quiet, just loves to play guitar, loves to he was a real musician, like, loved doing it, would have done it if he was broke, would have done it if he was rich. And just a genuine guy. Like, it was around the same time Proof died, and it was like, we were just getting to know all these celebrities and famous people, and
that's Proof for the people listening. That's Proof from D12, who you saw on stage with Eminem countless times.
Yeah,
that you got to work with. I actually started the podcast with your song "Dead or Alive" that you did with Proof.
Right. So me and him were going in opposite. He was doing the guitar thing, I was doing the solo thing, but we were still. Fall Guy was still very much a thing, and we just started making all these connections, and it was just a crazy point because it was like deja vu, you know what I mean? Like waking up, text messages, Proof's dead. I'm like, dude, I just went through this with Dimebag, you know what I mean? So,
which, by the way, if people, I do want to refresh, and by the way, we're talking with Intrinzik, Will Glass, who got to do a song with Proof from D12. The irony was also the song that you did with him right before he passed away was Dead or Alive. It's probably, if not one of the last songs that he ever recorded.
Well, I believe Twisted did one right around the same time. But yeah, the irony of the whole thing. Of
the lyrics, either Dead or Alive will be a legend. If you look in my eyes, you realize I'm a blessing. Like, it's perfect last song to record.
Yeah. And it is. And I remember that day so vividly. We were playing the song for him, and he's like, dude, I want to sing on the chorus too. Do you mind? I'm like, no. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's Proof.
So something resonated with that chorus with him, you know what I mean? And it was just crazy. And then to find out 2 weeks later or whatever, a month later. But back to the other thing. So Jody, he did Crank for a while, and his dad was a part of the business, and his dad had a partner, and his dad died, and then the partner was trying to push him out, so he joined up with Randall Washburn, that whole music group. I don't know what it's called, but he started up doing marketing for them, and eventually he just got sick of the music business, and now he's doing pinball machines.
Okay, so what are the other guys up to?
Well, Driver, our lead guitar player, is the lead guitar player for Eric Church right now.
Okay.
Eric Church happens to be like the #1 country singer in the country right now.
Awesome.
He won Album of the Year at the Country Music Awards twice in a row. I mean, I remember, he was in Arizona just to kind of go to college. So when he graduated and Fall Guy was pretty much, fizzling out, he moved back to Nashville to become the superstar country guitar player. And he'd come out for tours, once or twice a year. And every time it was at a bigger venue. And then he went from a 1,200 seat venue this last time to a 14,000 arena. And it's just so awesome to see him on stage in front of 14,000 people, who know every song, every word. And, it's just awesome to see that.
Has to be incredible.
Yeah. So he's doing that. He's on TV all the time.
That's probably funny. I've probably flipping through the Country Music Awards have seen Driver from Fall Guy and had no idea it was him, especially because he was wearing a mask on stage with Fall Guy, just like all of you guys.
Yeah, so it's just, and there's only other one member of Fall Guy at our peak when we were a lot of people don't remember us as a live band because we only really did local stuff, and then our DJ / light effects guy, FX was his name. He's in North Carolina somewhere just doing his thing, hicking it up with, farming and just living life, living the land and stuff like that. And he's got some kids and all that. So
you stay in touch with all those guys?
Yeah, I mean, Jody's my best friend. So, he was my best man at my wedding and all that.
Which we'll get into in a little bit, I'm sure.
Yeah, and then Driver, we talk all the time. I see him whenever he's in Arizona. And FX, I haven't seen him in a while. I did a tour with Axe Murder Boys, and we were in North Carolina. He showed up. But, Facebook you just, I liked his picture a couple weeks ago. I haven't talked to the guy in 2 years, but I liked his picture the other day.
So you still feel like you're somewhat in touch with these guys. And by the way, Fall Guy, that was your main project at the time when I met you, which was like 2004. And I remember the way you described Fall Guy, because I asked, what type of band is Fall Guy? I had no idea what you guys did. And I remember you described it as, you were like, we're Limp Bizkit times 1,000. And I was down with that, because I love that whole rap metal stuff, and still do, even though it's kind of fizzled out at this point from the mainstream.
Yeah, and it was like, or like Eminem meets Pantera. It was like, because most rap rock was like barely rock and barely rap. Sure. It was just watered down crap. You know what I'm saying? So we went hard as we could on the music, and you know, at the time I thought I was spitting pretty good lyrics. So, you know what I mean? Like a Fred Durst isn't an MC, so I was trying to do a little bit more complicated rhymes than him, and with heavier music and double bass, and like, you know what I'm saying? So it was fun, man. It was an awesome band. I still miss it. I still love good rap metal like Bionic Jive. I'll still listen to that. But yeah, it's actually Limp Bizkit's coming back here in a couple weeks
They're doing a big comeback. I mean, they're on Cash Money now, actually. Yeah,
and they're playing at a real small club where I do a lot of shows, and I'm trying to open up on that, but I guess they're not having vocals. But I would love for a nostalgia thing, and you know, I would like to meet Fred Durst. Like I respect what he did, and you know, I was a big Limp Bizkit fan back in the day. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, but looking back, you know, it's just a nostalgia thing. Like Nookie, like come on, it's like just same thing as New Kids on the Block.
Well, the funny thing is, I feel like that whole rap metal scene is like everything else in music, where the labels just said, let's sign it. It's got a, you know, there's a lead singer who raps and these crunching guitars, and they just overdid it. It was just like hair metal was in the 80s, and then new metal. And actually, I think the new thing right now is metalcore. Just any band with these like metalcore vocals, all of them are getting signed, and it gets to the point where these bands it gets oversaturated, and then the next big thing comes along.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the nature of any business. You find something that works, and then you rape it until it doesn't work anymore, and then it's disposable, and you move on to the next thing. And it's unfortunate music is treated the same way, because art shouldn't be like that, and art shouldn't be, you know, produced under the gun saying it needs to be out by this day, it needs to make this much money, or else it doesn't exist anymore. Because
of course
they're treating art the same way they treat a cell phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like 2.0 has to be out this day, and it has to do this much, and you know, or else we're going to discontinue the line. And it's, you know,
and it kind of makes art you have more of a connection with. Like when cell phones update, it's like, yeah, whatever. You don't really care. Like no one really looks back on the days of the Sidekick. It's over with. And even with like clothing lines, it's like this clothing line is hot one day. You know, a few months later it fizzles out, but you don't really care because it's clothing. But art, you just have way more of a connection with, or at least I do.
Well, yeah, art's, and if you listen to a guy like Alan Watts, he says art is the most important thing, because no one's talking about, you know, the lawyers and the politicians of Beethoven's time, but Beethoven it's a status symbol to listen to Beethoven and you know, appreciate Beethoven, but no one's talking about, oh, well, what about the lawyers and doctors and all these people who were so important, you know, back in the day. No one, you know, art lasts forever. And but that's the beauty of independent music. You can choose to be independent. You don't have to sell out. And you can do what you want to do, and take your time with your projects, and have your own fans, and cultivate your own fan base, and give them what you want them to have, and hope they stick around. You know what I mean?
Definitely. I mean, the hard thing is, though, I will say, it's just I've always been a supporter of independent music, whether it's in the hardcore scene or the rap scene. But it's really hard for these bands to persevere without, you know, major label or any type of backing behind them, because like you're hitting the road, hitting these shows, you know, week after week as much as you possibly can, and unless you're drawing giant crowds, just having enough money to stay on the road, if that.
Yeah, and you take a band like Twisted. I just did a show with them 2 days ago, or last night.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's
it was
what's up, man.
Friday night. Yeah, but you know, I don't want to speak out of line here, but they're pretty much moneyless. You know what I'm saying?
And they're huge in terms of the underground scene.
Right. So even if, and they've been doing this for so long, and like you said, even if you have a label, you have to be drawing so many numbers, and they were, I mean, independently doing really well, and they finally, thank God, broke away from Psychopathic to you know, now all the money's theirs, you know, and I mean, it's like, well, they needed Psychopathic to get where they are now, so but for them this late in their career to finally start making money is unfortunate because of how much, you know, like touring is very rigorous and it's very hard on your body and mentally, and personal life has to go. So you're on a bus 18 hours a day and you're on stage 2 hours a day. So I'm glad they finally did. It's hard. It's hard to step out of that comfort zone, but you know.
But the crazy thing is that they're at like the top of the food chain when you talk underground. I mean, I'm a huge, like I said, supporter of the hardcore scene. I went to go see a band, King Conquer, a few nights ago, and really connected actually with the lead singer. Very into politics, very like-minded, and I ended up saying to him, yo, I got to have you on the podcast, which he will be on soon. James from King Conquer I'll be having. But there's a band who does, you know, nonstop touring, really hitting hard, and they're lucky to play a show in front of like 50 to 100 people, and they're doing it because they love it. They love the message, but they're not really making money. And at the end of the day, to someone like you and someone like I, money isn't everything, and it definitely shouldn't be your motivation in life. But you expect to be in some way rewarded for what you're doing, especially when you're grinding as hard as a group like that is. And there's so many other groups like that in their position.
And the problem with live bands is instead of 2 guys in Twisted splitting the money, they're splitting it with 5 people. Plus they need drum techs, guitar, you know what I'm saying?
Someone to do merch, yeah.
Yeah, and Twisted, those kind of groups sell so much more merch than a metal band with 2 T-shirts and a couple. I mean, they have hockey jerseys. They have. I mean, you've seen the Psychopathic kind of band's merch. Like they really understand the merchandising side of it. And a band, you know, they're not in a tour bus. They got a trailer, and dude. You know, so much respect for that, but at the same time, you know, it's tough, man, and it's unfortunate that you can be so talented and basically, you know, most of them are in debt. You know, most of these people are not even broke, but in, you know, large amounts of debt.
Yeah.
You know, but they're doing what they love to do, and that should be the reward.
It's a huge reward in life, other than working at a desk job that you hate, you know, and making a ton of money. That's not what living should be all about.
Yeah, but that, you know, that's society and how the system is implemented. So, you know, it's I don't know. Music is very exciting from all angles, from the music and the business and how people make it work or how people, you know, don't make it work. And it's up to you to figure out your niche, you know?
Sure. And, you know, I don't want to talk all music industry because there's a million reasons I brought you on. And, you know, I'm trying to keep these to an hour. So once again, for the audience, I am speaking with Intrinzik. You can check him out on Twitter. Intrinzik, I'm spelling your name looking at it. INTRINZIK 6, the letter T, 7 on Twitter. That's kind of hard to remember. But also you can check out undergroundhustlin.com. That's the website you do stuff with other groups, put out these compilations that you're doing. So anyway, you're a guy who was on the road doing solo hip hop, also doing stuff with your metal band, and like looking back in your history, it was a typical rock star lifestyle of like there were groupies, you know, there were drugs on the road, all that type of stuff. And fast forward to now, you're like this married guy who's living this humble lifestyle in Arizona, posting all the time about these salads that you're making and smoothies, and you've become a raw food vegan. Like, when did all of this change? It's a huge lifestyle shift that you've made. Well,
I mean, going back to, I mean, even when I was on the road, I always had like a steady girlfriend, so I was never. The majority of my rock and roll career, I was not the guy doing all that stuff. You know, as I got more into the solo thing, and I was single, and my ego was getting bigger, I was indulging in that kind of stuff. But I did all the drugs early on in life. You know, all the hard drugs at least. By the time I was 18, I was pretty much done with. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't, you know, I was drinking. Yeah, you know, I was doing whatever. I wasn't going some people go all the way.
No, I mean, you weren't a guy who was like shooting heroin needles into your arm. I'm not trying to portray that, but nonetheless, like you're done with all of that, it seems like, and you're on this raw food vegan kick, which I don't even know when that started for you. Yeah.
Well, it all started basically. I mean, I've been a vegetarian on and off for a really long time. And real quick, that story was it was just Thanksgiving one year, and I saw the box with the turkey, and I just imagined one box in every house in every city and every, in the whole country. And I was just like, I don't know, something just vibrated with me. I'm like, that's fucked up. And I quit eating meat. And then from there, I got real into yoga. And from there, pretty much that changed everything I stood for and believed and did. And I just started, going deeper. Like you see these documentaries like Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead and Forks Over Knives, more of the mainstream vegan, vegetarian movies. From there, I just went deeper, like there's the Metallicas and then there's these underground bands. So I started Googling. Actually, my wife told me about this one guy, which she still regrets telling me about him, but his name's Dan the Man, the Life Regenerator.
Okay.
He's on YouTube, and he's a very spiritual, raw food guy, and it connected, like, with me, like, very, very strong. And I just started following him. And from there, you just, the videos on the side of the page, oh, you should also try this. And then it just kept.
And it becomes days of, like, watching these YouTube videos.
Yeah, so I'm just like, dude, you know what I'm saying? You wake up, and I'm, like, doing yoga, and I'm like, I can't do this yoga with all this heavy food in my body. So I just kept going raw foods. I'm not a raw vegan, by the way. I mean, I will eat pizza like once a year.
Oh, really? Okay, that I didn't know. Well, once a year, that's not like, really. I
don't identify with it. Like when people say I'm this, it just becomes so rigid and structured, and like you can't go outside of that box.
Yeah.
You're not a good vegan anymore. You know what I'm saying?
No, I know exactly. You know what? I could actually relate it to something in my life. I am not a raw food vegan, although I try to be pretty moderate with what I eat. And I am all about the kale shakes and all that like you and making salads. Not quite to the extreme that you are. But recently, I wasn't drinking heavily or anything, but I just realized it affected my mood and stuff. One day I just woke up from all that, and even just smoking weed every now and again, I was just like, fuck this. I want to be completely straight edge and be all off all this stuff. And I haven't picked up anything since December. But to be honest, as like I've done this and I've been like I'm fine with the way I am. I actually feel healthier than I ever had, just not putting any of those poisons in my body. At the same time, I realize like as this warmer weather comes around and summer comes, I'm lying to myself if I'm going to say that I'm not going to at least have a few margaritas in moderation or some shit, Like, you kind of have to have that release at some point, but I'm not a guy anymore who wants to go out and chug beers after work. That's just not me anymore, and it's terrible for my health, I feel like.
Well, yeah, a lot of it has to do with growing up, growing out of it.
Yeah, you're just over it.
And, I mean, with me, it's just... You have one body, and you can, like, unfortunately people don't realize that, but you choose what goes in there. So once you become aware that you are the chooser, then people are like, well, I eat soda. I'm like, you don't have to do any of that. I mean, yeah, it's going to be tough to wean yourself off of 3 liters of soda a day, but I mean, and it's going to hurt, but maybe that's what you need to do. But when you say I'm a raw vegan, you can't go outside of that box.
Yeah.
I want to eat a potato chip every now and then.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean? Just like someone who says that they're straight edge, you can't go out and have a glass of wine ever.
Right. Yeah, and I'm pretty much straight. Like I had wine like once last year. But that was easy for me. Like the alcohol and the drugs was just so easy for me, and now to get rid of because. I was like you, I was drinking a lot, and I was waking up, and I was like, I shouldn't have done that. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm sick of saying I shouldn't have done that. I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah, for me, and I think it has to do with just how in touch with your body you are. A lot of people say that after they drink a lot and go out, get hammered and all that, they're hungover the next day. For me, it wasn't even so much that. I never really threw up unless it was just an extreme amount of drinking, but it was just a feeling of depression for the entire next day and sometimes several days after that. and it would also get me off my like working out kick, which keeps me positive. If I'm not working out regularly, I'm in a negative mental state. And that screwed up everything. So I was like, yeah, I'm just kind of done with this. Now, I kind of realized months later down the line, I'll probably, have a few drinks now and again, and might even have one of those nights where I just want to let loose. But drinking regularly for me is just not a part of my life anymore.
Well, it also has to do with how you approach it. If you're saying, I'm never going to drink again, and then if you guilt yourself for having a drink, you're also drinking that guilt. So at least, giving yourself that freedom is nice, because then you're not putting that negative energy into your body. You're just, I'm relaxing, I'm having a drink, and whatever. You can't be. I mean, is it going to shorten your life? Probably not. Is it going to make you feel maybe a little bit worse the next day? But you just don't take anything too seriously, and don't identify with a label of being a straight edge raw vegan. It's so, oh my God, I ate a potato today. You just gotta
it's all about general health. I feel like, because I could tell you, once I stopped eating fast food and all of that, if you go months without eating any of that and then you eat it again, I mean, you feel sick, and it just, your body is so used to not having that crap in it that you don't even want that in there anymore.
Well, it's just like a drug addict. They can have a shot of heroin or a couple rails of coke, and if I did a line of coke, I would be like, maybe heart attack, but they'd be like, dude, this is no big deal. I do it. So yeah, it's like it's in touch with your body, and then just just letting go of one thing at a time and detoxing from everything, basically. And then I got pretty detoxed and pretty light, that I just started adding in oils and like fattier like fruits like olives and avocados, and then now I'm pretty much, I feel good. You know what I mean? But with all this crap out there, it's good to detox a lot, because you can never detox enough. There's always something in the air. There's always something in the water. But at the same time, you don't want to get too like super clean, because then any little particle in the air will make you sick. So
and you also can't get just obsessive with it. It should be something that you're doing for yourself and that you're doing for your lifestyle.
Yeah, because again, if you get obsessed to it, then you become attached to it, and then any deviation from your little narrow perception and belief system throws you way off, and then you're guilty, and you don't like yourself, and you beat yourself up. And we all go through that. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I hate myself sometimes. I mean, it's just being human and having an ego and having all these thoughts. I mean,
but at the end of the day, because I have those same thoughts, I've realized just from trial and error, year after year, like the solution to that is definitely not going out and getting hammered or just eating crap. You gotta motivate yourself to go for a run. At least for me, I don't do yoga. I know that's what you're into, but going for a run, hitting the gym, doing something, some type of exercise, and it will get you back in that motivated state sooner than later.
Exactly.
So is your wife a raw food vegan, or
he is,
or at least I shouldn't say in that genre of vegan that you are?
She understands how it works, but I mean, she's a lot younger than me, so when I was her age, I wasn't really doing that stuff. I wasn't raw vegan either, so I think she understands what it is and how it works, but she doesn't eat meat. She's pretty good. She's been eating like tuna because she's pregnant. She has some weird craving for that.
I didn't even know that. Congratulations, man.
Oh yeah, thanks. But yeah, I mean, she's not hard. I mean, people consider me hardcore, but everything's relative, because to the people I follow, I'm like not hardcore. So, like to the average person, I'm hardcore, but to the average raw vegan, I'm just one of them. So,
well, you're making your own salad dressings every day, and to me, it's pretty hardcore.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is. But the more I do it, the more I'm like, how could anyone put fucking craft? Sorry if I can't cuss on this.
No, you can, dude. This is the internet.
Like this oozy, gooey, preservative-filled dressing. You just totally defeated the purpose of eating a salad.
Yeah,
you're better off eating pasta, because you took a really relatively healthy thing and put just tons of fat and chemicals and preservatives into your body, and that's a trap. You know what I mean? That's like the food industry's trap. Oh, eat salad here, put this dressing on it. Totally defeat the purpose of what you're doing. You know?
Yeah. Oh, people who aren't really into the health thing, just in general, they look at the amount of calories in something, and that's not really the big deal. It's the amount of preservatives, and that they're like mummifying our food. Because I could tell you, I'll still eat a cheeseburger, but if I'm going to eat, and I know that you don't indulge in that, but if I do eat a cheeseburger, I want it to be an actual cheeseburger and not what they have at McDonald's, which is just it's not real food.
No, it's food-like products.
Exactly. It's not real. It's not even a real cheeseburger, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, if you get a grass-fed burger, I mean, there's different qualities of anything. You know, like the McDonald's is like, I don't even know what it is, but you can get a grass-fed burger with organic cheese on it, and the results are going to be much different.
Yeah. So I actually want to talk about the yoga thing too. Like, I see these pictures of you being a yoga instructor and all this stuff. Is that like your main job now outside of the music business?
No, I wish, man. It's not a very lucrative career unless
much like music.
It's much like music. There's some people who are touring with DVDs but you know, for me, it's just something I like to do, and I don't want to. Everything I get into, like music or like, you know, I always, it just turns into a business, and that's, you know, I teach and make money at it, but it's not, I basically started it so I didn't have to pay to practice anymore because it's so expensive to do yoga. It's like $20 a class. So by learning how to teach and by teaching at these studios, I don't have to pay to do yoga. So that's basically why, I learned doing it. Plus I love doing it and it's fun. But you know, it's not my main source of income, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you. And you just do so many things at once. So I have to wonder, just this lifestyle change and what you're doing, do you think it's stifling your rap career at all? Because like at the end of the day, writing raps about the lifestyle you're living it will never be dope. Like you could never write a dope song about making salad dressings in your house and like organic foods. Like rap will always be a rebellious form of music, and the lifestyle you live now is not the lifestyle you lived when I met Will Glass 10 years ago.
You know, I can answer that question in many ways because there could be the raw food rapper, you know what I'm saying, who just makes these hilarious vegetable songs.
Yeah, but do you really want your career to turn into that, Will?
I'm answering your question in many ways. So there could be that guy, you know what I'm saying? There's a guy named MC Yogi who is a yoga MC, but there's nothing. Rap originally was to spread a message. That was the original intention of hip hop music, was to spread a message to the inner cities. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of conscious rap that talks about the conspiracy and you know, you can make it edgy, like they're putting crap in your food. You don't have to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. No, that's very true.
You can expose the conspiracy. You can, you know what I'm saying? So I'm not like, but as far as a solo artist, I don't think the yoga thing affected me as much as the UGH thing, because.
And tell the audience what that is for people who don't know Intrinzik, what Underground Hustlin' is.
Underground Hustlin' is my business. We create artist services for the general public of underground hip hop, not limited to, but specialized in underground hip hop. And we just offer whatever. This kid at this last show summed it the best. We do shit for people who don't do shit for themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We market them, we do graphic designs, imaging, and then our main staple is our compilation, which every month or so we find a celebrity to host it. We use that celebrity's name to draw in people who aren't as well known as that celebrity, to have the celebrity co-sign their music. And we make compilations where the MC, the host, is kind of, it's like a for those of you who don't know what a mixtape is, it's like a radio show. The host introduces and outroduces each song and plugs the artist and their websites and kind of props them up. So once I started doing that, there became very little time for me in music. You know what I'm saying? Because it was all about them, and it's all about me helping other artists. Now, that being said, I haven't done much new music, but I've maintained my stature, if not increased it, inside the business. So, although I'm not making new music quite often, connections are so much stronger, and my finances are so much stronger that it's like I never took any time off at all from rapping. You know what I mean?
Sure. Because
rap is a huge business. As far as any genre of music, it's probably the biggest business-sided genre, at least in my opinion. So, you know, there can be these guys who just keep putting out albums but don't do anything on the business level, and they're just flat. But I'm increasing still, although I'm not making music. So it's kind of a paradox if you think about it, and a contradiction in itself, that the less music I do, the higher I get in the music. So now I'm at the point where these guys I came up with, you know, my buddy now is Twisted's manager, and this guy is now, you know, Ian Scotto, some kid I met in New York, is now working at Sirius Radio. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah.
All these people I grew up with in the scene are now taking major roles at labels or with other artists. So now I'm in the position where if I want to do a tour, they don't care that I haven't done music in 3 years, because I've been putting money into Strange Music. I've been putting money into all these art. You know what I'm saying? Every time I pay someone, my, you know, relationship strengthens, quote unquote. You know what I'm saying? So, but at the same time, I'm not making music, and I did lose momentum, because I was in a zone for a while where I could just write a verse like so quick, and it was just so dope, and I was just so into it.
Yeah.
And now when I sit down to write a verse, I'm like, I throw the pen and I just get up and I'm like, fuck, you know what I'm saying? So,
yeah, but do you think maybe that's because you're, like I said, you're not the same dude? Like if you listen to your old lyrics, it was more typical of what you heard of rap artists at the time, and that's not really who you are anymore. You evolved as a person, and you should never apologize for that. Like, we should all be evolving. Too many people that I meet are the same person when they're 20 as when they're 40, and it's like the Will Glass that I met 10 years ago is not the same dude. So do you ever feel like maybe this isn't a part of your life anymore, and that you're moving on to different things, doing this yoga stuff? Or like, will making music always be a part of you, even if you have to kind of evolve the type of music you're making?
Yeah, I mean, because I don't know if you remember the Sean Bewley TV show we were working on, but I was going back and remixing all those songs, and I thought, I'm like, man, I loved making, it was like the silliest music ever. I was just like, I remember, I took myself back into that old studio I was working in and remembered how much fun I was having doing that. You know what I mean? So it just needs to be the right music. You know what I mean? But I have a new record I've been working on for like a year and a half. But yeah, I mean, the content is just like, I feel like I've been looking for content now, because I don't want to rap about the same stuff, and I don't want to just write rhymes to be like, oh, look at this cool metaphor I came up with. I want to like change. I want to make a difference, you know. So there's a lot of conscious hip hop out there, like trying to, you know, and I'm real into the conspiracy, and I'm real into the, you know, the dumbing down of society. So that's edgy subject material, where you where you can be controversial and edgy and still hip hop. You know what I mean? Of course. Like, and Public Enemy, Immortal Technique. You know what I'm saying? Like all the people who started out hip hop were anti-government and anti this. So, but you know, it's. I want to educate myself and get the right knowledge before I start, you know, spewing some stuff out of there.
Of course, man. But yeah, you're going to draw a whole nother audience talking about that type of stuff, and that is always great. You know, like I could tell you, I mentioned King Conquer earlier on in the show, who I'm going to try to have on. Actually, I will be having on definitely in a couple weeks. James from King Conquer, and it's like when I first heard their music, I was like, this is dope. It sounds similar to some other bands out there, like the Acacia Strain. But then when I actually read the lyrics, and the lyrics were about defending the Constitution and you know, these drones that are watching us and government surveillance and all this stuff going on, I was like, I am totally on board with this guy, totally on board with his message. And then meeting him, you connect with certain people, and I was like, I need this guy on the podcast. So it's like when there's music out there with a message, and it's a message that you live, it's you have a bigger connection with that type of music than just something like the beat is hot and the lyrics. If the lyrics aren't there, it's not the same connection you might have.
Oh, exactly. And I've always sort of had a positive, like, go get 'em type of, you know what I'm saying, inspirational songs where it's like, do it, believe in yourself. And this is just an extension of that. You know what I mean? Like, I know I can do it. I you know what I'm saying? It's just like, it's not there. You know what I mean? And I don't know. It's a combination of many things, but I find all these rappers emailing me saying I lost weight, I did this. You know what I'm saying? I cut out red meat. I've been watching what you do, and it's like, this is a whole segment of people that the people I listen to aren't hitting.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the fact that people are watching these like willpower videos you're putting out of what you're eating and stuff, like you're hitting with this underground rap demographic that knows your stuff. You're hitting a group of people with this lifestyle you're living that you found out completely separate from what you do, with something that they never would have been exposed to had they have not been friends with you on Facebook or on any of these social networking sites.
Exactly. And, I think you can be edgy. I think you can be like, fuck the government because of the GMOs, eat a salad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you can build up that angst and then offer a solution instead of just saying, fuck the government on and on and on and on. You know what I'm saying? So I just need to find that voice, that new voice that, and it's like, I'm not under, and that's another thing. I'm not under any deadlines anymore. I don't have to put out a new album anymore. So that's another reason why it's taken so long. It has to come from me, and when it does, it'll be the right thing. So, I've gone through a lot of things. I've gone through where I'm so into yoga, I'm like, well, that's the wrong thing to do. The music is the wrong thing to do, and then that in itself is not yoga, because it's identifying with a belief system because I can go to those Twisted shows and be a positive energy inside that. You know what I'm saying?
No, I feel you, man. Well,
not all of those kids want to be drug addicts. Some of those kids want to be, like, a lot of those juggalos are successful people and eat healthy. You know what I'm saying? It's just the majority don't, but
I feel you. For some people, it's a release from their regular life, man. Like, I will always love gangster rap music. I'll always love hardcore, and even like some of these groups with like a negative message, I'll still always dig their music.
Right.
Even if the message doesn't pertain to my life at that point.
And you were at an ICP sort of meetup when I met you.
Yeah.
So a lot of people like you 10 years ago are in good positions, good jobs, making a difference, helping heal other people. So, I'm just trying to find that balance now where I'm not too hard on myself for doing all this music back in the day because that just made me who I am now. And now I have a voice where people are actually people are really interested in what I have to say, at least in that genre. So I need to make sure the music I put out is, because I do collabs all day, because that's the thing. Here's the money. I need the collab done, and I do it, and then it sucks my creative oil out, so I don't have it now because someone bought it from. You know what I mean? So I'm still collabing, and I'm still coming out with really awesome verses and hooks, but it's just not for me. So I need, it's just once I find, and I'm almost done. I have 10 songs done. I just need to wrap it up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it'll happen in the right time, and it'll be exciting to put out an album and start doing some, shows to support it.
I definitely feel you, man. And I think we've covered a lot of ground. And for people just tuning to the podcast, like, this is what you're going to get. Every week, you're going to have someone else's story that's completely different. I mean, last week we had on Navy SEAL Brandon Webb, who couldn't be further from Intrinzik. I mean, two totally different people, but two very inspiring lives to talk about. So if you want to check out Intrinzik, his Twitter is Intrinzik. You'll see how it's spelled on here, but it's INTRINZIK 6. The letter T 7. I have it up, but the website is undergroundhustling.com. But it's awesome to have you on, man. Is there anything else you wanna tell the audience out there?
I mean, it's times are changing as always. You know, I find myself like, I wish it was less advanced, you know, but I would be that person no matter what time period I'm in, wishing that, you know. But I mean,
you have to live for the moment.
Yeah, I was at Starbucks today, and every single person had a laptop and a smartphone. It's like what is happening? Like, seriously, 10 more years. What is it going to be like?
10 more years, it's just going to be alerts to our head.
They're all going to have those glasses, and
I'm not going to wear those glasses. I don't know.
But I said that for years. I'm never getting a cell phone. I'm never going to. Here I am, glued to my cell phone.
Yeah. No, I know.
You know what I'm saying? So you're going to have the glasses because you're going to have no choice unless you're, you know, on a remote island meditating all day. You know what I'm saying? Once everyone has the glasses, what are you going to do?
Yeah. Well, it makes us more programmed to this to this government intrusion, actually, because it's like you could look up your name or my name now on the internet and get so much information and so much, you know, information that's put out there publicly that 10 years ago, as you said, you'd be like, I'm not letting them veer this much into my life, but here we are, and we allow that. Yeah. But you kind of have to be aware of it and be aware that the government is looking into stuff that you shouldn't be okay with them looking into.
Yeah, and the whole marijuana thing, and everyone posting pictures of their weed on Facebook
and Instagram. Yeah, and it's like, well, and then cops come and bust you, like you're snitching on yourself, basically.
Yeah, so I don't know. Everyone, like, have you seen They Live, that movie with the glasses?
I know of it.
John Carpenter. Yeah, it's a great movie, but I mean, here they are. The glasses are out now. They're coming out, and it's like, I don't know. Everything, you know, technology is a gift and a curse. If you use it the right way, it's a gift. I'm so plugged in all the time that I'm just like yesterday I had to I don't want to do anything. Leave me alone. I've just had to lay on the chair outside and sleep in the sun because I just wanted to nature to just rape me. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm so plugged into laptop, computer, desk, you know what I'm saying, cell phone, and
I got you, man. Yeah, and you just have to disconnect. But so anyway, I just want to let everybody out there know, next week on the podcast, I got Rick Unger coming on, who writes for Forbes. He's on Fox News all the time. He's actually politically to the left, so he's very different from where I stand politically. But meeting him, a really cool guy, just someone who is open to discussion with anybody. And I think that's more of what we need, regardless of what your views are on things. So I'm psyched for next week. Will, thanks again for coming on, and I hope everybody enjoyed the podcast. Thanks again, bro.
All right, man. Good to talk to you.